How's it going, gamers? This is a small addendum before you start watching this video, as there are some outdated opinions, perhaps, that are shared within.
I feel like there's a lot of disclaimers having to happen in this community right now, but anyways.
Keep fucking up, what can I say?
Yeah. So we recorded our episode 1 impressions of Higurashi like a week ago. I haven't had time to edit and upload it because I've been incredibly busy. But episode 2 is already out, and we just watched episode 2 because we had heard that there was something that would recontextualize episode 1, basically. And so I'll just come out, this is going to be at the beginning of the video, but what it is...
Plot twist.
Yeah, the twist, essentially, even though it's like 30 seconds of dialogue at the start of episode 2, so don't worry about it,
And to further contextualize, a couple, as that episode airs, the Studio Passion that is animating it released a new key visual that unveiled that Hanyu is there. This is actually a sequel to all the other anime, so if you haven't seen the original anime and some of the sequels, this might be a little confusing for you, but it unveiled that it is a sequel and not necessarily a pure reboot.
But I feel like it's bad to put it in that context because everything else is a straight reboot, except for a glance at the end of episode 1 and 30 seconds of dialogue at the beginning of episode 2. So we don't know where it's going yet.
But it could venture further into...
But it's suggested from the perspective of a character. If you know the story of Higurashi, it's Rika, right? That's her name?
Yes.
Yeah, from the story of Higurashi, you know where things go with her, and it's basically revealing something that happened in, the start of season 2 of Higurashi early on, and showing you that, that there was a sequel
that has already taken place in this universe.
But functionally, it's still a reboot, besides those scenes,
I guess you could still watch this without any prior knowledge.
Yeah.
You're just going to be confused for a little bit.
But it could be that they're trying to, they think that modern audiences need more of a thread, so they decided to create a mystery that would latch people on in the age of ReZero and shit, where people are already kind of used to this plot.
Yeah, this kind of story.
Yeah, this kind of story. So that's just, we've seen episode... We mostly want to do this because we know that all the comments are going to be, in episode 2, all of this changes.
Episode 2.
So
we've seen it.
So please enjoy our discussion of episode 1. I don't think it's invalid or broken by the existence of episode 2. We do have a little discussion on
the possibilities of what the show could be,
and so now we kind of know, but we don't really know what they're going for yet. It's just that we do know that it is a sequel to all of the Higurashi content that came before, but we don't know how much this is going to influence where the story goes going forward, because it then returns to episode 2 of Higurashi,
the original show,
pretty straight how it originally was. So it's not that important. I wouldn't say new viewers shouldn't watch this,
It seemed like a lot of new viewers that saw this on Twitter were very upset.
Yeah, but it's because I also want to say for new viewers, I don't feel like you should feel I need to go back and watch the original now because I don't understand what's happening. I feel like they're going to explain it, probably.
Yeah.
And also, we don't know where it's going yet. It's a lot to ask of someone to go watch 50 fucking episodes of Higurashi because there was 30 seconds they didn't understand.
Yeah.
When the rest of the community could just tell them what happened.
Or it could be that it is better explained as the episodes go on.
Yeah.
There's plenty of shows where they give you breadcrumbs as you go along, and you do eventually learn.
There's just no way the way that they're rebooting it, in that it's literally called Higurashi when they cry new. That's the English title of this. Literally new at the end. It's this. I think they're trying to make this accessible for new fans, but trying to keep old fans engaged, and not you need to see the original, because it's only so far 30 seconds of out of context shit.
Yeah.
That you could probably use some context clues eventually to get, It's just a little mystery.
We just wanted to make it clear we had seen episode 2. We do know the events that have unfolded, so please, there's no need to go down in the comments section and tell us what happens in episode 2, because we know.
All right, keeping this brief. Bye.
Bye.
What are you doing?
I thought you were gearing.
No, I looked like you were gearing up.
I was gearing up for whatever you were gearing up for. What? Are you okay? Wow, hi! Welcome back to Big and Home.
You could call me when the cicadas cry, when the cicadas climb up my beehole. We just watched the first episode of Higurashi, when the cicadas climb up my beehole. Yeah, there we go. That's a joke.
Yeah, that's something.
Alright, so welcome, Zoomers, to the world of Higurashi no Naku Koro ni! Or when the cicadas cry.
Wow.
Or when they cry.
As
it called
simplified
in the West.
to for some reason.
The they? Who was they? I don't know.
You know, them.
I'm sure most of you probably... Like, I can't imagine you're watching Higurashi, the new season, yet without, like, knowing what the fuck Higurashi is.
I don't know. I think it's been so long that there's a chance that some people have never encountered or have never watched the original anime or read the light novel.
So for those of you who don't know, Higurashi it wasn't a light novel, it was a visual novel.
A visual novel, excuse me.
It was a visual novel game.
I'm so accustomed to light novels now.
It was from like the early 2000s. It looked like complete sin, but it became very famous and had an anime adaptation, which was very culturally relevant for a few years. You know, like this was a big hit.
A hit? Yeah.
They had a lot of sort of anime community notoriety. You know, it's not a hit like Naruto's a hit, but like with anime fans, it's a cult classic.
Put it that way.
Got a lot of traction with this sort of hardcore otaku scene, you know.
Indeed.
And then it went away. It had 2 seasons to get through like the plot of the game, you know, and then there was another spin-off when the seagulls cry, fucking Umineko, which is even more fun than Higurashi. It is
Umineko
very
is more fun, I would say.
Very underrepresented. Didn't quite get the attention that Higurashi got, I think.
It did not,
or at least it didn't stay relevant for as long. But yeah, it's been a fucking while for Higurashi.
It's been a minute, and honestly, I feel like it's a long time coming. And of all things that deserve to get a reattempt at trying to update the art style and maybe truncate the source material a little bit to move it along a little quicker.
Hopefully,
this is a great choice for that.
Yeah. So this is like it's you know, it's a remake of Higurashi, but it's almost a remake on the level of, like, adaptation of the anime being, like, 1-to-1 remade, you know? Like, as of episode 1, it follows episode 1 of the original anime pretty close.
Very closely.
It almost just feels like a paint-over art style-wise, you know?
It kind of does. All the scenes are very similar, if not almost identical.
Yeah.
I don't know how influential Higurashi was to you when you first watched it as a younger
so
teenager?
I mean, okay, for my enjoyment of Higurashi, I would not have gotten through it if my brother, sister, Digi had not forced me through it, like for the original episodes. Because like we had it, I think he had the first DVD or something back in the day, and like we watched that and I was like, eh. But that was at a time where it's like, you know, you'd just sit down and watch whatever, even if you don't really care. So it was like, you know, I'm zoning in, I don't really give a shit. And then like, it wasn't till like the internet picked up on knowing that it was good. And then like, he went and finished all of it and then rewatched it with me going like, this is really good. You have to get through the beginning stuff. And then like, I think after the first couple arcs, it does pick up, and like I did get invested in it. I liked Higurashi a lot, you know? It's not like I don't like Higurashi. It's just like, for me, these early episodes, even the first time I watched it, I don't fucking care at all. And I want to explain why I think the first episode of Higurashi, no matter the iteration, completely fails in several ways, but your enjoyment of Higurashi.
All right, well, I think it's safe to say that we had 2 very different experiences.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this light off. Hold on. I'll keep going.
because as a 13-year-old girl who was very into horror aesthetic, but wasn't able to find media that quenched her desire for things to be cute, but also gory and horrific, Higurashi was right up my alley, and I fucking loved it from the first episode when I watched it at like probably 13 or 14. Mm-hmm. I adored this show. I loved Rena. As I've said before, I had a lot of Higurashi merch when I was younger. Like, I had a Rena figure. When I was younger, I cosplayed Hanyu, which is a character that isn't even in, like, the first couple arcs of this show.
Yes.
So I fucking...
Well, she comes in season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely fucking loved Higurashi. So and as we've said before, earlier this year, we tried to rewatch the first episode of the original show, and it was absolutely unwatchable.
Yeah.
I could not get through it.
So boring. And I find this one to be kind of similar. I think they do a little...
I disagree.
Better job updating it, I guess.
I disagree, because first of all, I do, even though the animation is not, it's not anything to write home about. It's goofy at times.
I've seen a lot of people who really don't like the new style.
Jank-esque, one could say. I like the, like, Monogatari-esque aesthetic that they've put on the character designs.
They've got a shine.
They are very shiny.
I almost want to say it's a hentai shine. Like, I feel like it's something I see more in porn.
But Higurashi does have a lot of sexual undertones.
Yeah,
so I would say that's not completely off of the theme for the show.
It was interesting when I thought about it while I was watching.
Part of the appeal of Higurashi is, like, there is sexuality in it and there's horror in it. And that's, like, two things that, when you're a 14-year-old girl, you never find that mixed in media anywhere, let alone in anime. So it's very, very interesting to see when you're searching that kind of thing out and you finally find it and you're like, whoa, cool. This is sick.
Your perspective is very interesting, but because I want to talk about the first episode and what I think it does, at least for me, very poorly. And I worry about how it will appeal to the modern anime fan. I think it'll still resonate with, like, 14-year-olds the way it always has,
because
I think that's the target demographic for this kind of show. Honestly, in general with anime is 14-year-olds. Like, I'm not saying that as a slight.
First and foremost,
like,
it's
ReZero is massively popular, and, like, the demographic for ReZero is 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Don't get ahead of yourself, guys. It doesn't mean that as an adult you can't like it. It just means
that first and foremost, that's the target audience.
Yeah, like, it's gonna appeal the strongest to people of that age. But, like, this, I wonder, because it has a very mid-2000s sort of aesthetic in terms of, like, it came out in a time where, like, moe was the big thing, you know, and that was new. Like, the moe characters were very new. They were very stigmatized, and, like, this is in the moe revolution.
Yes, and back when it was a sex thing.
Yes, a sex thing. And it's like, this show has a bunch of lollies, and, like, they're very sexualized lollies. They're sexualized by communities forever. I don't really care about that. I'm just throwing that in as context of, like, it's coming out of this mid-2000s moe era where, like, the things that happen in the first episode of this are very typical of the time.
Yeah,
an average sort of moe anime.
It almost is, like, K-On!-esque in the way they have their club games, and everyone's being goofy and having fun.
And, like, that's the point, because it's meant to eventually subvert that and disarm. But for me, it feels like in 2020, with how anime are now, like, it feels like a very dated anime in that way, where it's just like, I don't see a lot of this sort of moe show anymore. Maybe it's because we don't watch those shows.
Well, yes.
Maybe that is still incredibly common, like, the way these characters are.
I think we just are not usually drawn to those kind of shows.
Yeah.
But I think that's what was so attractive to me about Higurashi as a kid, is it had those elements, and then it also had the horror elements subverting it. And for me, watching this here in 2020, it's like we just watched Yashahime, but somehow the first episode of this Higurashi remake felt unbelievably, like, nostalgic and comfortable to me in a way I haven't felt in a long time. It put me back in that mindset of like, being 14 and seeing this show and being like, whoa, a show where, like, cute girls are also, like, doing spooky shit. This is super cool. And I loved it.
I have the opposite experience of being like, all right, well, I gotta get through this again. Like,
no, I love it.
Here we go with this again.
I love, like, the setup of the fucking photographer guy slowly leaking information to Kaiichi about how, like, oh, I don't know, this shit's kind of fucked up. There's some shit going on here.
'Cause,
like, that's just very nostalgic for me because I remember loving it when I was 14 and seeing it again now in a more aesthetically palatable sense. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember why I liked that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I am not a 14-year-old anymore, but it still kind of feels comfy.
But for me, I never liked the Moe group dynamic of the, like, I couldn't give a fuck when they're, like, interacting with each other. I'm like, these are just a bunch of, like, they feel like nothing characters to me because they're just, like, smiling and having a good time, and I'm like, I don't care about any of them at all.
That's where we differ, because I was, like, obsessed with Rena, so...
There you go, yeah. I mean, she's cute and all, but, like, she's not doing anything yet.
But when you're 14 and you're me, that's your Harley Quinn, you know?
I know. Yeah, I get that. But, like, watching this now, like, I think about, like, how the first episode is kind of meant to hook you. And I think it's very difficult for Higurashi, and this one does the exact same thing that the original did, which is, like, it starts off with a murder scene, you know?
Yes.
Because it, like, in the games, I've played, like, the brief part, like, start of the game, and that doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't.
It just starts as a game,
just puts you
and you have
the
to
daily
get,
life.
Yeah, it gets into the daily life. So
but
it's like...
that's what I think the anime does right. It shows you that, and so you know there's a taste of something that's gonna get there, but how do you get there?
That's conflicting with me, because, like, it shows you immediately the murder, so you immediately know this is gonna be edgy and you're gonna get there, which I think they have to do, because, like, otherwise you have no hook, you know?
Well, because you're 14, and you want to know that there is a promise of violence.
Yeah, but it's like... But I feel like something like Madoka does it so much better, where, like, it finds a way to keep you interested and then really subverts your expectations when shit hits the fan.
By no means am I trying to compare Higurashi to Madoka, which has, like, deep themes and
but I'm just
philosophical shit going on.
I'm trying to say where this fails for me in terms of setting up that expectation, because it's like, it immediately hooks you in with, there's gonna be murder, but then it's like, but you feel like, but when am I gonna get there? You know? Because it goes from murder to, like, to happy times, and then, like, kind of gives you the suggestion of, like, there's something under the surface. And then it goes back to a bunch of fluff nonsense dialogue, and then at the very end it gets back to, like, there's a dam thing. I'm like, oh, the dam, that sounds pretty interesting. Like, I'm hooked for that, like, oh, let's learn about the dam, and, like, oh, there's something going on with the town, but, like, there's just that little bit at the very end, and I had to sit through so much of shit I don't care about to get there, and just be like, I don't know if they could weave it in a better way, you know?
Well, I mean, let's be clear, Higurashi is trashy.
Yes, it is trashy.
It is
absolutely
trashy garbage. So... Yeah. And again, maybe it's different for me because I am a horror fan and I grew up watching horror, but it's kind of like the difference in watching, like, a shitty, schlocky horror movie and then, like, Hereditary.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can enjoy both of them, but you enjoy them in different capacities.
Yeah.
So I completely understand why people don't like the schlock and why you might like Hereditary.
It's like...
But they're different appeal.
It's, like, I understand the appeal of Higurashi. It's just I wish they would release it in, like, 4-episode chunks, because I worry that it's gonna be just like it used to be, where people give so little fucks about episode 1 that they never make it to episode 4, and then, like, it's one of those where the first arc is the most boring, and then every arc after that is more interesting, you know? Because they're trying to establish, like, the happy-go-lucky character shit.
Yeah.
And it does get more interesting, but, like, episode 1 for me is just such and like, they have to show you, like, graphic murder to try to hook you, like, please stick around. I know this is gonna be boring as fuck for this first episode, but please stick around. It's gonna go somewhere.
Well, I guess that's where our opinions differ, because I don't find it to be, like, that boring.
Yeah, and then it's like when the characters are all interacting and I know that there's gonna be murder, I'm like, it's all their attitudes here are a facade, because they're all just, like, acting when they're all psychopaths. Like, I already know that,
and
you
that's
know?
because you haven't gotten into Hinamizawa syndrome yet, you know? So, like, you know it's there, and I am, like, excited to watch it manifest again, because it's been so long that I'm like, Yeah, I do want to see how Rena loses her shit. That's right. I like this.
Like I am trying to, because I'm trying to go like, how does this plot unfold? I don't remember. How does she go from 0 to 100?
She doesn't.
I don't really remember.
Like, it's slowly like breadcrumbed out as she has these moments where like Keiichi says something that triggers her, or something happens that like upsets her, and she has that moment where she snaps in and then snaps back out.
Yeah.
And for a while, it's like she has those weird moments, and you're like, "Are you all right?" And then she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." And then finally, you get to the place where the dam breaks.
Yeah.
And that's when shit gets really real.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You know, I think it's gonna be a fun time.
I really enjoyed it.
It's so hard for me with episode 1 with Higurashi. It's the same thing happened when we tried to rewatch it. I'm just like, I don't care. I don't fucking care.
With the old one, I agree, because it aesthetically is a nightmare to look at.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get myself in the headspace to enjoy it.
I personally like the updated designs, you know.
I don't know. I like the way the girls look.
I also get
it.
Because, like, with it's just, you know, I'm now flip-flopping on what I said about Inuyasha with Yashahime, where it's like, Yashahime, I'm there with you. Where it's like, I don't fucking, like, I just love being here in this world. I don't really care what's going on.
It's a matter of personal preference.
Yeah, it's just, with Higurashi, I don't have that nostalgic attachment. My attachment is, I remembered disliking all of this shit before, and I still dislike it now.
Whereas
but
I'm very
know
attached,
I'll get to, like, appreciating it later. And I'm like, I know I loved season 2. I don't know, you know, I'll get there. But,
I mean, like,
maybe we should talk about this like every arc. That might be fun.
That could be a good way to go about it.
Could be fun.
I'm really, if this show manages to go on long enough to get to some of the more brutal scenes in later arcs, I will be very excited.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna adapt all like fucking 50 episodes of Higurashi or whatever, because it goes on for a fucking while.
There's certain scenes that I really want to see updated, but I don't know that we'll make it that far.
I remember things getting pretty cool, and I'm sure it'll get there again. This is the original ReZero, by the way, for all of you who fucking don't know what the hell you're fucking doing in this world.
That's true. That is actually accurate.
This is like almost literally the OG ReZero without being a faggot
without
isekai.
Being in another world, yeah.
As I always have to like call out some show that everyone loves so that all the comments can be, you don't like ReZero? And I'm like, I haven't even seen it. I just fucking...
You have to fucking bait the haters while I'm over here gushing about Higurashi.
Yeah. But for the Zoomers out there watching, stay tuned. Keep up with Higurashi. It will get more fun. If you're like me and you thought like, oh, I couldn't give a fuck about this, it'll get better.
It picks up.
Like, it does pick up. It has to like establish these characters and make you feel invested in them so you could watch them get murdered over and over again. Like all these fucking shows have to do.
Yeah. I mean, but it's the original show to do that, so.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're like me and you already have an emotional and nostalgic investment in Higurashi, then, hey, we're here for a good time.
Yeah, but I mean, as a new adaptation goes, I think it does a perfectly satisfactory job, if not better. I don't think you're, at the rate it's going, if it's adapting it the way it keeps going, like, I don't think it might be a replacement for the original, is what I'm saying.
Definitely. If it's able to cover the same ground, I would say there would be no reason to go back and watch the older show.
Unless you just literally prefer the aesthetic, which I don't, so whatever, you know?
It's personal preference.
Like, it's not like a Brotherhood thing where they're gonna adapt it in a new way. It's like the original already adapted the story the way it's meant to be told. This is just gonna be literally the same thing again. So, like, it's just so Zoomers can watch it.
Because you know the old one's unwatchable.
Yeah. Alright, get out of here. Leave your disappointed, disagreeing comment below, and I will not respond to it because I don't respond to shit comments.
Bye.